everyone, and welcome to episode 32 of the Social Liability Podcast. This is the podcast where we discuss all those folks in our lives that violate the social contract that we all agree to live by. I am your host, the Raspberries, with my co-host, the Buck Grundle, bringing you just a sheer plethora of stories that one of which really hit home for us. Actually, two of them, because we got stories about two of them. But we do got some doozies this week. But as we start each and every episode, Buck, how the hell you been this week?
You know, this is an interesting point for everybody because you're actually going to hear me say, not that great. I just...
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, right?
Let me make sure we're recording. Go ahead.
Yeah, right? I just not that great. You know, I got to tell you what, man. I got a lot of bitching. I don't know. I just got a bad case of the ass this week, and everything's rubbing me the wrong way. And it's really starting to get to me. And, you know, I don't like feeling like this. And I wish there were an easy, quick solution. But normally, I'm a brooder. So what I'll do is that, for example, this is a perfect example. If you were to be with me right now, I look probably 10 miles of bad road because I haven't slept in about 3.5 days. And yeah, I mean, total sleep in the past 72 hours, I probably logged in about 6 hours. And it's just starting to fuck with me. And, yeah, I mean, it's just, it's all sorts of little shit too. I ordered a table because I'm sick and tired of doing shit like my podcast, with you, or trying to eat a bowl of cereal. Yeah. Trying to do those things. And I look like a crippled Quasimodo, hovering over my table because I don't have a fucking table that I can slide underneath it. I'm telling you. And it's just little shit. And it's just, and it's just me bitching about it. But see, what it's going to end up is I'm going to do all this circular reasoning while I brood. And then I'm going to come up with, this is my conclusion. And then I'm going to go back to feeling, happy-go-lucky again. And it's essentially this. If the biggest problem I have in my life is a frickin' table and the inability to comfortably eat cereal, if those are my big problems right now, A, it's silly to feel like this over something that fucking stupid, and B, I am lucky as hell that those are my only big problems.
Well,
so,
talking about big problems, would you like to hear a joke?
I would love to. I wish I had a button.
What's the difference between the U.S. Capitol and Mordor?
I have no idea, but I can't wait. What is the difference?
One does not simply walk into Mordor. What the actual fuck? Did you watch the...
man.
Did you watch this shit?
I rarely ever turn on the news, but I'll tell you what, man, I was refreshing my screen probably every 15 minutes there for a couple of hours. I was like, I need to know what's happening.
So I
thought that was ridiculous.
I was in a conference call with the city manager and director of human resources, our fire chief, and we were having this really serious call, and I'm looking off to the right the whole time, watching my side screen here. And they're all like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm sorry, but I am entirely too engrossed in this. You guys need to turn on the news. So yeah, for those of you that they're living under a goddamn rock, I mean, you don't know about this, but everyone, as far as I know in the world, knows about this. Basically, there was an insurrection. I don't know of any way to put it.
There really isn't one. Because... I mean, everything that really happened kind of meets all the qualifications of an insurrection.
I mean, there's a lot of comparison to the Antifa and the BLM riots as opposed to the Trump riot. And yes, while the other ones did last much longer, I think the Trump riot might have had a little bit higher impact with the fact they took over the goddamn U.S. Capitol.
Yeah, I, you know, people, like you said, they might be comparing it in longevity or trying to quantify the amount of damage that was done, in comparison to these two incidents. Like, oh, well, the Trump riots, all they did was this, and all they did was, there is no all they did. The fact of the matter is that they flew off the fucking handle, acted like a bunch of damn kids, and actually went down in history because it is the second time in the history of our country that our capital has been taken over. And it's like, win, lose, or draw, doesn't matter whether you broke a single window or not. The very fact that you did that makes you go down as one of the most perverse people in the United States history. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like, that's just...
Did you take? There was an article in our feeds. We have a group chat for all the news articles we find throughout the week. That the guy who failed to win the congressional seat from West Virginia was one of the insurrectionists.
Yeah, I actually sent that article. I didn't, and that's...
Well, here's the best part. I'm watching the videos, and I'm watching like all the videos getting posted, and one of the news articles is like just grabs this girl and like, what was happening? And she's, they pepper sprayed us. We were just trying to get into the building, and they pepper sprayed us. Well, no shit, Kung Fu. You're lucky they didn't shoot your ass.
This is America. Yeah, but you know what? You can't walk into a fucking bank vault either. Like, seriously, come on. Like, it is the U.S. Capitol. That is where, like, whatever you feel about our democratic process, broken, great, whatever, it takes place there. Like, that is the nucleus of America. Thank you.
And here's regardless of what your political alignment is, and we've talked about this, and you can guess what it is, either one of us, pretty easily. But oh my God, you stupid hairless apes! What were you thinking? Did you really think that a couple thousand people were going to storm the Capitol and everybody was going to go, oh shit, okay, well I guess we better change everything?
Well, I mean, like, and in the news, I was refreshing Google, like I said, every 15 minutes. I came across a picture of this guy sitting in Nancy Pelosi's chair with his foot up on the desk and his cell phone in his hand, like sitting back there like it's casual Friday. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you dipshit. Like, you realize that there's going to be some legal fucking ramifications for this whole comedy monkey go round that you appear to be just loving this ride on. And one of the first people they're going to slap in handcuffs is the dude who was dumb enough to have, like... No. Everybody's... No.
Number one's going to be the horn guy. The guy with the horns.
Okay, yeah.
This guy's like a runner-up.
Well, regardless, I mean, like, everybody else who is there may be arrested, blah, blah, blah. We can go reasonable doubt all day long. I mean, like, you can hire a lawyer with enough stones to get Ray Charles a driver's license and get out of it. Except for those guys. Like, there's...
You didn't break in and like make a big political statement. You went in there and acted like a bunch of fucking horses' asses and tried to take selfies of yourself, committing felonies. Great job.
Yeah, that's called treason, bitch. Like, you don't want to... That's not a scrapbook moment. It's just... That's...
And look here. This is where Grandpa got arrested.
Yeah, because he said he wasn't even going to wear a mask. Like, oh, you dipshit. Like, this is the one time where wearing a mask would have behooved you. Like,
that's the best part. That's the best part. Everyone that fucking stormed the Capitol and was like assaulting police officers and everything else with the same people. I'll be damned if I'm wearing a mask.
It's like, we covered it on the podcast a couple episodes ago. Guy who robbed a bank and didn't wear a fucking mask. He didn't wear a mask to rob the bank because we're in a pandemic. Like, not undisguising yourself while everybody else is wearing a disguise. You're not helping yourself. You're not helping. I understand that there's like the intimidation factor, and you want to stand out. You don't want to. No, you still like. This is the one time where this particular accessory actually like is a necessity for committing a fucking crime, and not getting caught.
Yeah. Well, and from that aspect too, can we just touch on the fact that this is not a political podcast, but this is a pretty damn significant event in United States history. This is going to be in history books, folks. So I think if we don't talk about it, we're just ignoring it. Let's talk about the police. In what world did somebody who is in command of that amount of law enforcement personnel allow that to happen? In all seriousness, it was ridiculous how mismanaged that was. Now, the chief of police for DC Metro I think it was DC Metro, has already resigned and been replaced. But oh my, the fuckaloo.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, like, they're going to go back on this. This is going to be in some police academy, like, archive. And it's not going to happen right away, but pretty soon, in like, say in the next 20 or 30 years, they're going to be reflecting upon this moment. And then they're going to be looking at all the trainees and the cadets in the police academy, and they're going to be like, all right, guys. Now, if you want to know what it looks like when a monkey fucks a football, right here.
Here's your football.
Yeah. Just whatever you do in your law enforcement career, do not stand by while this happens.
Yeah. And the funny thing about it is they were able to retake the building rather quickly. It's almost as though they just let them take the building and then said, okay, now we're going to push them out. Both sides benefit from that in some way, shape, or form. So I'm not saying it was orchestrated. I'm not saying it wasn't orchestrated. But I'm also saying that if it wasn't, there was some fucking stupidity going on.
Actually, I have a hypothesis about this.
Go on.
So everybody starts like flying off the fucking handle, and all these like the whole gaggle of people is just going ape shit, and the cops are just going, "Are you fucking serious?" And instead of actually doing something about it, they're just so dumbfounded with the disbelief that people are just that bad. Like, they really are doing this. They're just standing there with like the insert dick here face on, like, what? And by the time like people are like breaking windows and shit, one of them has an epiphany, like, oh wait, you can't just sit here and watch. Wait. Like, somebody's like, wait, somebody should call the police. Fuck, we are the police. It's like, shit, we got to do something about this. Like,
because really, the only thing from a criminal standpoint, the only fucking thing dumber I can think of in recent history, or maybe even my lifetime, were the dumb motherfuckers that said, "Let's storm Area 51." I mean, seriously, you're right up there. It storm Area 51, storm the U.S. Capitol. Hell. Ugh. You know what, though?
Well,
this I already said, this isn't a political podcast. We shouldn't just spend all day on this. We should get to the actual, like, the shit that we're known for, and that is absurd news stories. And I got some doozies this week. But let's start out with this one. Toronto man charged in absurd heist involving suitcase full of meat. Yeah.
Tell me more.
In the latest news from Toronto police, well, you read the headline. This incident was a weird one. It was one of the most bizarre busts as of late. Two men were caught stealing from a grocer, and not just any food staples, but a whole bunch of meat. TPS issued a release this week about the crime in which the perpetrators entered a store near Kale in Dundas West in December and began taking meat products and placing them in a suitcase that they brought with them. They were confronted by a staffer on the scene. One member of the duo began wielding a knife and making threats, after which they were able to quickly flee to the airport, perhaps, with an array of steaks and pork chops in hand. Well, in suitcase. I love it when they actually like put a little flourish in their writing. I mean, it makes it seem a little less credible and everything, but it's in good fun, I think.
You know what though? We get a lot of articles that are written by like they got like the symposium of monkeys in there, and it's just almost unintelligible. So at least every once in a while we get like a journalist who's like, and we're gonna put a little sizzle on this ridiculous steak, and here we go.
I almost think sometimes it's the writer. They said, here you're gonna write about this, and he looks at it and says, I've won awards, and you're making me write about this.
It's like, all right, you're gonna give me a fucking 6th grade story, you're gonna get a 6th grade article. Flair.
Well, and their getaway vehicle choice, hilariously bumbling and peculiar as the crime itself, an Uber. They had an Uber waiting for them. Thankfully, the TPS hold-up squad was able to identify one of the thieves, who was also apparently behind a number of similar crimes in the area. The other suspect remains at large. 45-year-old Kevin E-Roll Plummer now faces charges of robbery with an offensive weapon, disguise with intent, and a whopping 11 counts of failure to comply with his probation, and 13 counts of theft under. I don't know what that means, but hey, it's a Canadian thing. And social media users are definitely having a bit of fun chatting about his escapades now that the details have been released. It's obviously the store needs to beef up security. And it sounds like they were too chicken to go after him. I love how they just
like, how come he can make bad animal puns and he doesn't get a button? You're just sitting there cracking up.
Here, I'll give
if I were just no. Oh man, you are a douche distillery.
Yeah. There is No Frills, a Metro, a gourmet butcher, and a few natural food supermarkets in the area, but it is unclear which of these outlets served as a target for the curious klepto caper, in which luckily no one was hurt. I don't know why. I don't know why, but the whole story just seems hilarious to me. If all the things you're going to steal, and that you're going to bring equipment in order to do it in the form of a suitcase, why would you just go and steal meat? I just don't get it.
Because it's the most you know what? I can actually, I will give this guy, a marginal pass on the planning phase.
Two guys. These are two guys who never once looked at each other and said, hey, this might not be a great idea.
No. I'm only giving one guy credit for the planning. The other guy is a dipshit because he just went,
okay,
fuck it, man. I don't, you had me at the store. Let's go. I
like meat.
Yeah. So here's what it is. They pick the most expensive item in the store. They're like, listen, if we might go down for this. So we're either gonna go big or go home. So they were like, there's no way we're gonna fit this shit in our coats. So we are going to need a vessel. Boom, suitcase. Yeah, that's not, they don't even factor in the fact that it's not even the least bit inconspicuous. You're just like, this will hold stuff.
Just rolling into the grocery store with a suitcase. Nobody thinks anything of it.
I can see him with a whiteboard. He's plans with his. He's like PLANZ plans. He's like, okay, got the plans down.
And just by the fact that they had the suitcase proves that it wasn't a spur of the moment thing. This was thought out.
Of course, man. They even arranged for an Uber. Like, come on, what kind of responsible criminal wouldn't have a getaway driver for their heist? And it's painfully obvious neither one of these gentlemen is intelligent enough to have a driver's license. So they know they're going to go down for the robbery of meat. They're like, fuck it, we're not going to go down for vehicle theft as well. We're just going to kind of like, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. But there's no better way to ensure loyalty than money. We will hire someone to drive us. Yes. And then boom. But, obviously there was a few flaws in the plan, and it did not go as
quite as intended.
The last slide in their PowerPoint never came to fruition, but whatever. I'm gonna give these guys like a D.
Right.
Like they get a D.
Well,
just at least they brought a suitcase. They weren't trying to run out of there with an armful of fucking meat. like.
Well, we're gonna stay in Canada for our next one, and I've seen the video of this. I haven't read the story yet, but if it's anything like the actual video, it's priceless. Porch pirate foiled by the most Canadian of anti-theft devices, a snowbank. A would-be porch pirate is facing charges after getting caught on camera allegedly trying to swipe a package from someone's doorstep in Canadian Mississippi, only to have his car get stuck in a snowbank while trying to get away. The incident unfolded in a video that has been widely shared on social media. Police say it happened around 2:30 p.m. on January 4th in the area of Meadows Boulevard and Aaron Center Boulevard. The video starts with a man opening his front door, startling another man standing on his front porch. You can watch it in the player at the top of the story. So yeah, there's a video here. You're done, the person behind the camera explains as the man on the porch runs to his car saying sorry. The man then proceeds to reverse his small hatchback onto a pile of snow, where he becomes stuck, frantically spinning his front wheels. He can then be seen desperately trying to get his car to move, attempting everything from shuffling the snow on his hands and knees to pushing the car out of the snow, but to no avail. You want me to get a shovel? The man who's filming says at one point, while the driver revs his engine, going nowhere. The man behind the camera later starts giving him more instructions, telling the man that the car is a front-wheel drive, so he needs to get those wheels on the ground if he wants to go anywhere. Peel Regional Police say a 33-year-old man from Brampton was arrested in connection with the incident and charged with one count of theft under $5,000 and one count of fraud. He was subsequently released and scheduled to appear in court on a future date. So, I've sseen the video, and it's actually quite long. But it is the most Canadian video ever created. Because the guy that opens the door to catch the porch pirate, he's not even being nasty. It sounds like he's making fun of this guy, but he's like, no, he's literally explaining to this guy, it's a front-wheel drive car, eh? You need to get the front wheels down, eh? And the guy the whole time is like screaming, I'm sorry, please don't call the police, I'm so sorry. But if you're gonna be a porch pirate, which I can't say I recommend, why this dude actually pulled into the guy's driveway, got out, and walked up to his front door to get the package. Like, no plausible deniability anywhere in what this guy was doing.
Yeah,
Go on.
I just want to point out to everyone that the one saving grace behind this whole podcast is that you can say with certainty that stupid is not unilateral to one specific spot on the globe. We have covered it from everywhere. And this is another perfect example. All I have to say is that Canada is priceless because they are the nicest people on the planet. And I'll tell you, the only reason why that guy was so nice to the criminal was because Canada has something called the RCMP, and you do not mess with them. Like, you do not mess with the RCMP. That's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They always get their man, and it's I'm not even making fun of those guys. All the respect in the world to the RCMP. I've never had a run-in with them. I've seen them in action once. It was not eventful, but it was still intimidating because those uniforms are legit, and that's all there is to it.
You know, we both. Well, no, I'm sorry. I know. You know one. I know two. Two women that have been banned from Canada by the RCMP. You know less. And let me tell you, you got to be a pretty big fuckstick in order to get yourself banned from freaking Canada.
And I just really like Canadians. I just really do. And the perfect example is if you go to Niagara Falls. Go to Niagara Falls and stand on the Canadian side, and you get all the majesty and beauty of those wonderful cascades of water upon water, of whatever. I'm trying to highlight the majesty of the falls. I went there on my first honeymoon and whatever. But you go over, cross the Rainbow Bridge, and you're in Buffalo, and you look at those falls, and it's just like, people pay for this. Like, people pay to come. Like, people pay to come here.
Well, let me counterpoint that though. So you're saying that the view from Buffalo is worse than the view from whatever town it is on the other side?
No, I'm saying that the entire experience is different because, when you look at the fall, the water looks the same regardless of what side of the damn country, what side of the border you're on. It's the ambiance. You're not in Buffalo, you could be standing next to a pile of garbage while looking
that's called
at the
Buffalo.
falls. Yeah. Okay. But if you go over into, say, Toronto, which is wherever, yeah, I think it is Toronto, but whatever. Cross the Rainbow Bridge, and you're standing in Canada. And yeah, you're standing over there in Canada, and you will see nothing but the majesty of the falls, for they pick up their trash, and it's every drop of water it falls with a slice of ambiance because it's so clean and nice. Whereas in Buffalo, you're just like, I hope, I wonder if I stepped in that.
Yeah. So, it's in very much the same way of that. So, the nicest airport I have ever been into in my life is Tokyo Airport. It was actually Tokyo Narita. Everything was spotless. At 6 a.m, they have bathroom attendants in there to wipe down everything after you leave. There was not anything anywhere. Everyone was dressed perfectly. It was splendid. We took off from Tokyo. We landed in New York. In stark contrast, the worst airport I've ever been into is LaGuardia. That place was a rotting cesspool. I literally saw somebody pissing on the carpet. Get your act together,
either way,
America. Get your fucking act together.
Yeah, I mean, but anyhow, man, what do we got up next on our roster? We got to keep this comedy monkey go round going.
Well, this one is actually out of Singapore, so I have a feeling I'm going to have a real hard time reading it. But man sentenced to jail for cheating his loan shark. So a man who cheated a loan shark out of money by pretending to harass debtors but not completing the acts, was sentenced to jail for 11 days and fined $1,000, I'm going to say dollars, but I don't think that's right, on Wednesday. Muhammad Ismail, 34, pled guilty to one charge of cheating and another of gambling through a mobile application, with two other charges of cheating the unlicensed moneylender taken into consideration. Okay, so in the United States, you call somebody and you call the police and say, this is fake weed. I bought this from that guy on the corner and it's fake. You can't profit from a bad act. So you can't file charges on that. Apparently in Singapore you can. Apparently in Singapore the drug dealers can file charges on you.
that is a very I don't know how I would describe that system of justice, but indiscriminate form of justice.
I guess. The court heard on Monday that I can't think of his name here. I can't pronounce it. It starts at K. Let's call him K. Rule. Yeah, because K. Rules. Came across a job offer by the loan shark known as Lucas in November of 2019. The offer required him to lock the gate of Lucas's debtors in exchange for cash. Lucas's identity has not been established. So, they're filing charges for the loan shark. They don't even know who the loan shark is. Okay. Despite knowing that Lucas was a loan shark, he contacted him and the intention of earning fast cash. They agreed that he would lock the gates of the debtors, paste notes on their doors, and send videos of these acts to Lucas as proof. In exchange, Lucas promised to pay sums of money ranging from $1 to $120 for each completed job. Around December 10th, Lucas sent instructions to K-Roll via the WhatsApp to lock a debtor's unit with a chain and post a note on the door. K-Roll went to the address as instructed, but had already planned to cheat Lucas by deceiving him into believing that the harassment was carried out when it was not. K-Roll locked the gate with two bicycle locks and put the debtor's note on one of the locks to avoid damaging the gate. He took a video of it and sent it to Lucas, deceiving him into believing that the harassment had been carried out. Lucas transferred $120 to him, but K-Roll removed the locks and the note from the gate before leaving. K-Roll reported his deception to two other occasions against Lucas. The offenses came to light when Lucas sent the videos of the harassment to the debtors and authorities were alerted. K-Roll has also pled guilty to a separate charge of placing bets of about $1,120 on a mobile gambling application. The prosecutors asked for 2 weeks jail for the cheating and the fine of at least $1,000 for the gambling charge. Why? I know you don't fuck around with Singapore law because you remember back when we were young, the American kid when they were spray painting cars and they caned his ass.
Yeah, cane. Yeah.
But
yeah, and they're like the United States tried to get that kid off the hook, and Singapore was like, "Go to fucking hell."
Well, they did reduce the number of SWATs.
Yeah, they were like, "Okay, you're gonna threaten us with nukes. The only leeway you're getting is we will reduce the number. If you don't take that deal, fire away. He's coming with us." Like,
we're whooping this kid's ass. This kid's getting an ass whooping, okay? That's all there is to it.
Yeah,
there's no negotiation here, folks. But
like,
apparently you can rip off a freaking loan shark. You can rip off a loan shark and catch charges in Singapore now. I mean, Jesus.
Now, I was gonna say, I'm gonna speculate here. Maybe he's not a loan shark. Maybe that's just what they're calling it in the article for I don't know, for like, interest purposes. Like, oh, guy cheats a loan shark. Because I'll tell you, when I lived in Mexico, I worked at a gentleman's club, which is a politically correct way of saying a whorehouse. And one of my responsibilities there as security, yes, I was 19 years old, but I was also 6'2" and 270 pounds and dwarfed like 85% of the population. They wanted me working there. So either way, one of my responsibilities is if a person were to come into the bar and run up a huge tab, if the owner knew the person or, you know, somebody were to vouch for him, they could sign the check. And when you sign that check, you are essentially agreeing to, you know, pay your frickin' bill. You know, it could be a gambling bill, could be whatever. Doesn't, you know, whatever. There's a check with an amount that you are signing off on. You agree to come back at a certain time and pay that money. And, you know, 100% of the time you pay your money and, you know, there's no freaking problem. But
That's it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And now in the off chance that you don't think you are going to pay, well, then you see me. And, you know, I wasn't like, I didn't go break anybody's kneecaps. That's not what I'm saying here. My job was to go and get that money. And the way that I went about doing it was, you know, yeah, I work for, you know, a business that's a whorehouse, and now I'm coming to your house to come get money for, you know, this exorbitant check that you ran. Do you want your wife to know that I'm here as well?
Ooh.
Like, that was my first recourse. Like, I'd be like, listen, man, like, you signed this. Like, you admit that you owe this. Like, you have to pay. Do you want me to get it from you, or do we need to involve your wife? You know, and that's my first recourse. But, you know, every once in a while, somebody would just, you know, they'd just be like, fuck it, I'm not paying you. And that's the hill they would say they're going to die on. Well, that's when shit would get a little ugly. Not because I would go hands-on, because I didn't. You know, I was not a vigilante. That is not what I was doing. But I was very crafty.
Vigilantes are doing it for justice. You're doing it for whore money.
I'm doing it for legitimate debts to an establishment. Thank you.
Legitimate, he says.
Well, they are. The guys went in there, ran up a tab. Doesn't matter what the fuck they were doing. They agreed to pay money. Like, so shit would get interesting. Here's why. Because now I have a legal document.
Legal document.
No, that's what it is down there. You sign this. This is your Juan Hancock. It's like so you can't cheat the hangman, bro. Like, you gotta pay, you know. And I gotta be working 3 hours. Like, we gotta get this shit like ironed out. So how am I gonna do this? Because if you don't pay, I gotta. And that was a constant. Like, that was what I was looking at. So here's why I always got my money. Or what ended up happening. I would go flag down the Mexican police. Because down there, they drive around in fucking backs of pickup trucks with catcher's gear on. And they're full riot gear, MP5 machine guns. Like, these dudes are legit. And these are the biggest Mexicans that you'll ever see. They're all my size. Like, they find the biggest Mexicans that they can find, and they throw them all in intimidating outfits and give them guns and throw them in the back of a pickup truck. And they're like, if anybody needs you, you better fucking help them. Well, see, hey guys, I work at a place that has naked women and beer inside. Okay? If you come down here and you help me get this shit taken care of,
you too can be inside of a place that has naked women and beer.
you too can enjoy all the benefits of being in a building full of naked women and beer. How does that sound to you? And the Mexican police officer would be like, A fucking plus.
He'd be C.
Yeah. So police would come down. They'd be like, pay the bill or else. Blah, blah, blah. Sometimes, you know, normally that got them. But sometimes, like, people were really, like, you know, just stupid. Like, now they're going to argue with 5 guys with MP5 machine guns. Well, guess what happens? You don't argue with a guy with an MP5 machine gun. He goes, I'm going to point this gun at you, chain you with these handcuffs to the bars on your own windows, and all my guys are going to come in here and unload everything you own onto this flatbed. And when you pay this man his money back, you can have all your shit back.
Maybe.
Yeah. And I'd look, and, you know, my right as the security, like, enforcement, whatever, you know, chief of security, jefe de seguridad, is what they called me. El jefe de seguridad. 19, I'm chief of security. It was awesome. But my legal right was I got to put a monetary value on everything in your home that got carried out. So if you were a real dickweed, like your 50-inch plasma screen TV, and we're talking back in 2002, 2003. You know, if you had a big screen plasma screen TV back then, like you paid like $3,000 for the shit. I was allowed to put a price tag on it. No, shit, no, man. They brought a flatbed. We can put a lot of shit on that flatbed. That TV is only worth about 85 cents. And, you know, I would. Because if those guys are willing, like, I didn't touch shit. Except for my pen and my notepad. I'd be like, bloop, bloop, sticky note on that one. You guys are good to carry all this stuff out? Like, yeah, no problem. You've given us titties and beer. Like, yeah, yes, sir, I am.
Titties and beer.
Yes, sir, I am.
Make the world go around.
Yep. Okay, you know what? Since we've established terms and you guys are okay with them, yeah, we're going to remove everything that this man owns from this house and put it on that flatbed. I had a lot of writing to do and a lot of math. Yeah, like, you know, I didn't want to be greedy, so, you know, like 88 cents. Like, I ain't going to cheat the guy.
Damn.
Yeah, gotta keep tallies on that stuff.
So we're going to move on to some rather different stories, and they all kind of have a little, well, at least two of them have some significance to you and I. Let's start with this one. Masturbating Bandit behind bars, held without bail. He's not likely to beat this one. Yeah, that's the title we're going with from the Cala Post. Oh, but this is one of two stories that are both based in the same geographical region. And where is that? The great state of Florida.
Florida man, does whatever the fuck he can. Makes headlines every time. Florida's paradigm. Look out! Here comes Florida man.
Here comes Florida man, as a felon is being held at Georgia prison, has been transferred back to Marion County to face a plethora of felony charges. On December 29th, Anthony Sean Howard, 25, was transferred to the Marion County Jail from the Georgia Department of Corrections. He had several warrants in Marion County from 2019 for burglary to an occupied dwelling, burglary to a dwelling with battery, lewd and vicious exhibition, video voyeurism of a victim under 16 years of age, 3 counts of indecent exposure of sexual organs, and 2 failure to appear bench warrants for burglary and grand theft. This just sounds like a fucking great individual. According to the detectives, they were first made aware of Howard's crimes on July 5, 2019, after a victim found Howard on her back porch masturbating at 2 a.m. When the victim asked Howard what he was doing, she realized he was masturbating, at which time Howard shushed the victim and continued to masturbate. While the victim ran inside to call for help, Howard fled the residence. On July 15th, 2019, deputies responded to a call in which a 17-year-old victim stated that she was awoken to the noise of her bed in her bedroom and saw a silhouette enter her closet. At first, the victim thought it was her sister. However, when she approached the closet she found Howard standing inside. The victim screamed and Howard fled the residence through the front door, pushing the 17-year-old victim's mother out of the way. Additionally, on July 22nd of 2019, Howard was in the Marion Oaks Community Center when a 13-year-old female noticed him staring at her. The victim stated that she later went to use the restroom. While in the stall, she saw someone reaching under the stall with a cell phone in hand. The victim was clothed at the time, so she kicked Howard's hand, who was later identified by surveillance video, in an attempt to prevent him from taking photos or videos of her. Howard was seen fleeing the women's restroom in the community center on surveillance footage with his cell phone still in hand. Detectives were able to place Howard at the scene of other crimes where he also touched himself. Prosecutors say he will stand in court but is not likely to beat it. He's being held at Marion County Jail without bail. What the fuck?
Wow.
So we've said this many times. You and I know each other from working in the prison system together, and we had a lieutenant, and I'm just gonna say his name. You remember Lieutenant Guilio?
I do.
Yeah, I believe he's actually like a deputy warden now, I think. So Giulio would come around and just do a loop in your unit. He was a shift commander at the time. He'd just come in and walk around. Well, I distinctly remember I was working in the work release unit one day, and so he went to do a round, and one of the inmates, an older guy, much older, like ran back to his bunk, and it was kind of weird. And then when Giulio was going around, just this is middle of the goddamn day, but he's just walking around checking both sides, gets down to this dude's quad, and what was he doing, Buck? What was he doing?
He was shoving a toothbrush holder up his ass while masturbating.
Yes. And we had another officer that worked with us. His name was Dutt. And what did Dutt start calling him after that?
Stroke and poke.
So Giulio was from the Bronx or Brooklyn. I'm not sure which. But he had that thick, like, New York accent.
Well, he was NYPD as well.
Yeah, he was. And all you hear is that big, New York voice. What the fuck are you doing? The whole block goes silent. And I don't think the guy broke stride either. He was still going. But when you look back at the footage, this dude literally saw Giulio come in and said, "Now's my chance," and ran back to his bunk. It's not even a cell. This is like a dormitory. And just
there were quads.
Yeah. Shoved a toothbrush holder up his ass and started jerking off, waiting for Giulio to see him.
Yep.
I don't think Giulio was impressed. But yeah,
no, I would have to say no.
Yeah, so
but it made for good conversation on our lunch break. That really was for sure.
Old stroke and poke. that was fun. But we have another Florida story, and this one, Florida man rides airboat on neighborhood streets. In a Florida man who rode his airboat through the streets of his neighborhood on New Year's Eve threatened to kill deputies as they were taking him into custody, according to the Brevard County Sheriff's Office. Deputies say they were called to Mimosa Avenue around 11:30 p.m. Seriously, you named your goddamn street Mimosa Avenue? I mean,
it's Florida.
Is it next to Jack and Coke Drive?
It's Florida.
I guess you're right. Well, they saw a man, later identified as Joseph Prohaska, 40, riding on an airboat on the streets before pulling into a yard. I mean, how do you ride an airboat on the street? I mean, seriously, I know the fans are strong, but they'll really push this thing down macadam? Seriously?
I mean, it makes sense. The name in and of itself should explain why it's able to do that. It is an airboat.
A public information officer said Prohaska knocked over trash cans and was shooting off fireworks during the incident. As deputies were on scene, they said Prohaska turned the airboat on them and started revving the engine to cause a disturbance and mock law enforcement. Prohaska was then placed under arrest and began making threats when deputies also tried to take his father into custody, yelling, "I will kill you if you hurt him." Prohaska is facing charges of disorderly conduct and making threats to a law enforcement officer. I'm shocked that's the only charges he has. But what's more like America than some fucking Florida hillbilly on a airboat going down the street shooting off fireworks? How could you make that possibly more America? Unfortunately, he's just wearing like a black hoodie. I wish he was wearing a wife beater and had a mullet, but he doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, you just take what you can get. I mean, it'd be perfect if, but we're still happy.
America. So, the last story we have. Now, we're both from Pennsylvania. We've talked about that before. Neither one of us live there now, but we're both from Pennsylvania, and this is like right in our wheelhouse. This is right around the area we used to live in. And it's a good one. Serial bank robber. Let me say that again. Serial bank robber arrested in Dauphin County heist had sued Penn State, the Catholic Church, and Tyler Perry. A Harrisburg man accused of stealing from a local bank this week previously robbed at least 10 others and tried to win big money claiming to be a victim of Jerry Sandusky and the Catholic Church. Shamont Lyle Sapp, 57, was facing his latest robbery charges Tuesday after Lower Paxton Township Police said he fled with cash from the M&T Bank on Johnstown Road after threatening a teller. This is far from the first time Sapp has been accused of using illegal or questionable methods to make money, according to authorities and court records. I love how they say that. At one point, he filed a lawsuit against Jamie Foxx and Tyler Perry because he said they stole an idea from him from a movie called Skank Robbers. Sapp's first stint in prison started in 1983 at SCI Camp Hill on forgery charges. He completed his sentence in May of 1988 and went to live in a halfway house. And this is where it gets fun. Sapp was convicted of stealing $45,000 from 10 central Pennsylvania banks in the 1990s, according to court records. It was a discarded piece of paper in his partiality to medical disguises that nailed him as a suspect, as he happened to be living under the noses of authorities in the halfway house on Cameron Street. He was 32 at the time. Investigators linked the 10 robberies because each one of them, the robber disguised himself as a doctor wearing surgical mask and bandages on his face. With the disguises he used, it was hard to come up with a true likeness, FBI senior agent David Malinari told reporters at the time. He moved around to different banks. He did his homework, and he was living in a halfway house, not out in the streets flashing money. He wasn't flashing money, but he was buying new vehicles. The day a masked man robbed the Pennsylvania National Bank on Market Street, Sapp returned to his halfway home with a newly purchased silver 1988 Chevrolet Corsica. He told corrections officials his mother had given him the money to buy it. So if we send somebody out to go anywhere on job search and they come back with a brand new car, you'd think it would raise an eyebrow or two. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Especially when they're living in a halfway house. A little more than 2 months later, on the day of the 10th, and in the final series of robberies, Sapp bought another car. One break in the case came when an employee of the halfway house remembered Sapp working at a medical center and told authorities. The employee had been discussing the robberies with his wife, who also worked at a medical center and who mentioned that any clinical worker could easily obtain medical supplies. Meanwhile, tellers at the Farmers Trust Bank in Carlisle, site of one of the robberies, found a piece of paper the robber dropped while making his fast getaway. The paper had Sapp's fingerprints on it. Sapp told authorities he spent most of the money on rent payments for his friends, clothes, and food. After his arrest, he cooperated with authorities and told them where they could find the money hidden in a pinball machine in his Steelton apartment. I mean, it's a great place to put it, in my opinion. But
yeah.
He faced 100 years in prison for his crimes, but was only sentenced to 13 and a half. While incarcerated, he made national headlines in 2011 when he sued Jamie Foxx and Tyler Perry for $1 million each, claiming they stole the idea for a movie and then cut him out of the project. You know, there was a guy in our prison who tried to sue WWE superstar Natalya because she was a dominatrix and owed him money. But, you know, if you're going to do it, you might as well go big or go home. So Sapp claimed he came up with the idea to reunite Shanae, Martin Lawrence, Wanda, Jimmy Fox, and Medea, Tyler Perry, into a movie, according to Fox NYC. But Sapp's original concept wasn't a bank robbery. Instead, Sapp's plotline took place in a psychiatric hospital as follows, according to the television station. A white male patient takes Medea hostage. He deals with phone calls with the negotiators as Medea actually pleads for her life in a very sad, tear-jerking way. Her pleas are to be very sad. No jokes at all. That's this whole pitch for the movie. Fox and Martin did Skank Robbers skit for the 2009 BET Awards, a month before Sapp claims to have had pitched the idea. In 2013, a federal grand jury in Oregon indicted Sapp for lying about being sexually abused by Catholic priests from the diocese in 4 states. Authorities say Sapp made the false claims through the mail while he was an inmate at the U.S. Bureau of Prisons. He pled guilty and admitted to attempting to extort money from the diocese in Oregon, Arizona, Kentucky, and Washington. He was sentenced to 33 months in prison in 2014. Last year, a U.S. Middle District Court judge dismissed a lawsuit Sapp filed against Penn State University, claiming he was sexually abused by former football defensive coordinator Sandusky in 1977 and 1978. Magistrate Judge Susan B. Schwab said Sapp didn't offer any facts to back up his claims. On Tuesday, Lower Paxton Township said Sapp walked into the M&T Bank around 12:07 p.m. and handed the teller a threatening note announcing a robbery. He fled with an undisclosed amount of cash and threw his clothes into a dumpster to avoid arrest. Sapp is being held Wednesday at Dauphin County Prison in lieu of $100,000 bail. A preliminary hearing is scheduled for January 22nd in front of Magisterial Judge William C. Weiner. So essentially, if you have a bank robbery in the Dauphin County area, the first thing you do is see if Sapp's in jail or not. I mean, this guy's made his entire life about robbing banks and trying to rip people off. And truly a product of the prison system.
Either that or he really believes that he's like the reincarnation of D.B. Cooper. I mean, except, he's not getting away with it.
Well, that's the thing. It's at a certain point, I'm a professional bank robber. Well, you're not that professional. You keep getting caught. Maybe it's time for a career change. Just a thought.
Right. I mean, if you're going to choose a life of crime, I get it. There's necessity and blah, blah, blah. We won't go into the social, economic reasons for people committing crimes. But at the end of the day, the first time you get caught, the very first time, doesn't matter what kind of crime you're committing, you could be doing something that's completely unrelated to the crime that you are aspiring to be the best at. If you get caught for anything, you are now a bad criminal and need to pick a new career. Okay? You know where you don't find good criminals? Where they do not exist? You will not find one good criminal in prison. Okay? You won't. You won't. And it's just a fucking fact. The second you get caught committing crimes, you are no longer a good criminal, and you need to pick a new vocation. Perhaps washing dishes might be more up your alley. Bank robbery, I can see how the dreams of grandeur unfold in your mind head. And, we'll just rest upon the fact that nobody knows what your imagination looks like. And we will all be satisfied with that. As long as you stop robbing banks, you're bad at it.
Well, here's a little tidbit of information. There are more bank robberies that are ever known about by the public. Bank robberies occur all the time, and rarely are the individuals caught. It actually is the most lucrative form of crime out there because they don't get reported because they don't want that in the news. They don't want people realizing how easy it actually is to rob a damn bank. And typically, unless you're a fucking idiot like this guy, you get away with it. The only time you get caught is if you run your mouth or you're too stupid to wear a mask. But the thing about the whole robbing a bank is you're not going to get the vault. You're not getting in the vault, folks. You're only getting what's in the drawers. And guess what? There's not a whole lot there. Those tellers drop those into the vault all the time. They don't have a whole lot of money. Usually they make away with a couple $1,000s. And guess what? It's not worth it. Because if you get caught, you're going away for a long time.
Long time.
Long time. So, bank robbery, easy. Yeah. Chance of success, pretty high. Is the reward worth the risk? Nah. Not one bit.
No. Nope. I mean, it would be with considering how easy it was. If you could reasonably expect to get away with, say a couple $100,000.
But you're
Like,
not. You're only getting like 5, maybe.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're getting pennies. Like, the amount, like you said, no, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. The price tag, or the honey pot associated with a bank robbery is not worth the amount of risk, like you said. It just isn't.
Yeah. But, filing lawsuits, that's quite profitable too. So, I mean, you can't blame the guy. What the hell? Because
find a penny, pick it up.
What do inmates do? They sit around and think of ways to fuck with people. That's all they do. That's all they do.
They got nothing better to do.
I mean, they file grievances. They file petty suits. They just do anything they can to kill time. So it happens. And it's not the first time, and it won't be the last. But if you're ever in Dauphin County working in a bank and you get robbed, it might be Mr. Sapp. Just throwing it out there. That being said, I think that's all we have for this week's episode of the Social Liability Podcast. You can always listen on so many platforms: Spotify, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Overcast, Anchor, Google Podcast, Breaker, Castbox, and Apple Podcast. You can also watch it live on my Twitch stream, which is twitch.tv/the_raspberry01. You can watch it on our YouTube channel, which if you search for the Mount Moon Crew, I'm sure you'll find us, or you can just search for the Social Liability Podcast. And we have videos up on there. We're actually going to be expanding 2 new shows on our, actually 3 if we're talking, because we're still waiting on Buck to get off his ass and send us his vlog videos. Yeah. As soon as I said it, I was like, yeah, he's going to say something.
No, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to sit here and shake my head in shameful defeat. That's...
Well, we're also going to start doing a video-only version. Not sure what we're going to call it yet, but it's going to be a certain aspect of the Social Liability Podcast. And the Untitled Anime Show is going to be making its return here very soon for all you weebs out there. That being said, folks, I am the Raspberries, my co-host, the Buck Grundle, wishing you all a great week, and don't storm any federal buildings this week, folks. 2021 was supposed to be better. Have a week.